Happy Tuesday, everyone. And for those joining us back again for day 2, welcome back. For those who are just joining us for today, we have Claire Sakaguchi.
Hi.
She is working on a fitness app. I'm your host, Alejandro. And so before I give Claire a chance to go and do a quick recap, I want to go over a few things. I want to go over the schedule we had for today and yesterday. In case you didn't miss them, you can go ahead and take a look at those recaps. This morning was Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge with the Voodoo Val. And at about 9:30 was Adobe Live Drawing and Painting with Stephen Green. Daily Creative Challenge with Julian Crespo, and today is Workflows with Claire Sakaguchi. Now, in about 30 minutes, we're going to go ahead and do a chat and win. And we'll be asking you a question, and all you have to do is chat. And you'll be able to get a chance to win 100 die-cut stickers from Sticker Mule. You can do whatever you want with them, but you'll have a chance to win 100 of those. And next up, in about an hour and a half, we'll be going over daily creative challenges. So all you have to do is take a look at the creative challenge and submit whatever designs you have, and we'll take a look at them. So we'll be doing that in about an hour and a half. And we look forward to them because I always have some very interesting and sometimes gorgeous results. So it's really fun. And just say hi to all the people who are coming back. I see Steven, Munir, Sam, Richard. Happy Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday, it's a
Taco
good day.
Tuesday. So I see you have a recap.
Yeah. So for those of you that are new to day 2, I just want to briefly go over a little bit about myself and what we are working on, and then I'll kind of review what we got done yesterday as well. So as Alex said, my name is Claire. I'm a UX designer based out of Portland, Oregon. I currently work at a company called Bar 3. We're a boutique fitness company, and we have studios across the US as well as our digital subscription product. So that is what we are working on here today. So just to quickly recap the user problem that we are focused on, which is something that's really important to my design process and how I work as a designer, thinking about the kind of problem of not having enough time to work out and really having busy schedules that you have to work around as an online fitness client. So for us, we're really thinking about how we can create an experience that serves content to our clients really efficiently so that they can spend their valuable time working out rather than searching for the right workout. And then the goal for what we're designing is to create a browsable experience for discovering online workouts and give clients a way to browse and really bring that in-studio experience to the online platform. All right, so to dive back in to where we left off yesterday, we are back in XD, and you'll see that we're still working from the same design system that we were working from yesterday. So we have our great color palette, font types, and our components that we are pulling into our wireframes. And so yesterday we were really focused on this user flow of helping that user find the right workout. So we were designing this discovery page, which is a place for people to discover content in multiple different paths. And then we were going to go forward and start looking at the detail page information and kind of this end of workout feeling tracker as well. So today, hopefully we can wrap up the detail page and start thinking about the feeling tracker. And if we have some extra time, we'll also think about how we are highlighting features in the experience and how we can implement maybe like a tooltip kind of onboarding system for a new user. So hopefully we'll get through all of that. If not, we'll get as far as we can. So thank you again for coming back today.
I thank everyone for coming back. You have a lot of returning people, Sundar, Richard, Steven. Glad they came back.
Yeah.
Where are you guys chatting from? I know someone was from India. So I always love to hear that.
Yeah, all over the world.
So you'll be working on the So where are you at right now?
Yeah, so we can dive back into the detail page. So I think that we had a good start of kind of what the top information was. We had our image, the title, that description about how a user is going to feel while they do this workout, an opportunity for them to learn more about the instructor by clicking out, those kind of filter tags, and then we were starting to work on some of this additional content. So we had kind of this more editorial content block, which I think we can build out a little bit more, as well as this idea around how we are bubbling up insights from other community members, so that we can bring some of those kind of words and adjectives to the experience as well. So I think we can dive right in and start to think about the rest of this page.
I also want to encourage the chat very quickly. If you have any questions about design or anything you want to comment on, feel free. We're very open and we love hearing questions and answering them.
And if you have new ideas, throw them out.
Yeah,
we really want to hear
or puns.
All your we still
Health
need
puns.
some
We still need some
workout
health puns.
Quotes.
We got people from Brooklyn, Florida, Istanbul.
Awesome.
I love visiting New York. It's
Yeah,
always
so
much
fun. So fun. I feel like, San Francisco's kind of the West Coast. Slightly version of New York.
Is it?
Maybe, I don't, no, maybe not. Maybe it's not the right comparison.
I don't know. I mean, some people may compare it. I'm not one of them, but
That's city. All right.
I've always wanted to visit Istanbul too.
Yeah,
So I'm
no,
like,
that's like a
let's
super
visit.
cool city. Great architecture and history.
Yeah. My history, no, that's for sure.
Okay, so something that we talked about a lot yesterday was this idea of a card-based design system and kind of that modularity. So I think we want to build out the detail page in a similar way so that we can start to think about these different blocks as individual patterns on the page. So we're just going to add some dividers to kind of separate the content. I think since we have this quote here.
By Cornelian, who is back in chat, by the way.
Oh yeah, here you are. With your
That's his quote.
motivational quote. So we're just going to bring a little more attention to this quote. And I think in the system we do have some bigger quote marks. So I think this is a nice way to kind of bring attention to this. I'm just going to rotate that.
I love how accessible everything is too.
Yeah, it's so easy that you can just play around with things. Jump around. I'm going to start to group this. And then I feel like there might be an opportunity too to kind of add a color background to this slot since it is editorial. I'm just going to bring this backwards.
What color are you thinking?
I kind of look back at our palette, but maybe there's kind of a more neutral color.
Neon green.
Make it really pop.
It's really pop, really bring
Make
attention
my
to it.
art director really, really happy with the
She
break.
probably has like a heart attack hearing me say that.
Maybe this kind of cream color, we can bump down the opacity on that and start to feel like that's a little bit more of an isolated block. Okay, so back to this word cloud. I feel like we can maybe bring some organization. I'm not sure if I'm feeling the different sizes. It feels a little bit chaotic too, to have so many different.
Makes it a little challenging to read.
It does. So I think I'm gonna change my approach to this. And maybe there's actually a way to start to quantify these words. So maybe we can throw some kind of graph in there, which might add a little bit more meaning to the user information. So let's play around with what that could
Out of curiosity, how do you separate the spaces in the sections, creating the card look? And that's a question from Steven.
How do you separate the spaces in the sections?
Are you referring to grids? Or because there's a padding for you to be able to adjust.
Yeah, if it's more about the padding system that we use, we do have that built out. It's not sitting in as an asset, but it is something that when we kind of go back and do redline specs, we'll make sure that we're using like a base padding or an extra large, medium.
That brings up a lot of interesting questions too. When you've developed this out and you have a pretty much finished product, to send it out to developer. Mm-hmm. Do you, at least with Bear 3 or yourself, what kind of padding or point system do you guys tend to use?
We use pixel. I mean, we set our padding by pixels for the horizontal padding, and then we set those margins as percentages. But I like to hand off to developers, a full redline spec that calls out like all of the different type fonts, all the different paddings, just so that it's as easy as possible to interpret from the development side. But I think
I think that's the real crux of it, to really communicate as much of what you're going for and remove much guessing work as well.
Absolutely, and I think that having that super clear system laid out is really beneficial, so that again, you're not introducing all these new different fonts, that it's very clear of like, this is always gonna be your H1, your H2, your body, copy, so that it is very simple to interpret for developers. But I think there's still definitely that process of going back and forth to make sure that everything is pixel perfect as much as possible. Does that answer the question?
I hope it answers this question. If it isn't, just let us know and take a look back at it.
But I do love in XD that it's super easy to kind of, like it brings up you'll see these
love that. It makes things so much easier.
So that you're not kind of guessing right away, like you can tell what those spacings are.
When I'm designing, I tend to just make it base 4 or 8, if I can, at the very least, and then from there do percentages.
Yeah.
Just makes things a lot easier. I'm curious to know what everyone else uses. I know I've heard 10 as well.
In increments of 10. Yeah, I think it's always interesting to kind of hear the best practices of other people's handoff process, because I think it varies, and it also kind of depends, how much front-end knowledge designers have, or visuals. I think there's kind of this always open question of like, should designers know how to code? What level of that is important to know? It's there's no right
it's
or
gonna
wrong
be a
answer.
constantly debated question.
Yep, absolutely.
I think it's nice to at least have an idea of not necessarily knowing how to code, but knowing what the engineer will need to know. At least think a little bit like an engineer when you're getting to that production portion.
Yep. I think it's like being able to speak the same language, right? Like you don't have to be able to do it all yourself, but being able to communicate effectively.
Yeah, exactly.
And have the right language.
Like putting components together and thinking, oh yeah, this will, if it stretches in response to resize, it'll stay on this side. So how do we do that? What text should we change?
Yeah, absolutely. No shortage of information to learn all the time. Okay, so playing around with a little graph here, and I think the text should be left aligned, and then we can start to kind of see maybe these different visuals of how the community is bubbling up these words.
Are you thinking of adding the amount of people? Is that something?
Yeah, so we can definitely think about how we want to quantify it if we do. Is it a percentage? Is it a total? We can start to think about how that information would sit in here as well. So I do like the number of people, because I think it also helps with that idea of understanding like, okay, a lot of people are engaging with this workout. Other people have done this as well, versus a percentage. So maybe we can start to put in smaller.
So Dar's saying, bolding the question might help make it pop. What is the community saying?
Yeah, we can definitely think about this as like a stronger header too. So maybe we can go back in and adjust that font. So let's say 100 out of
500.
500.
I don't know why. I'm just throwing a number out there.
Good number. And then
probably not going to work though with the actual bars we have.
That's okay. We'll do the math later. That's okay. We'll make this one smaller. We're gonna write on that. And let's see, this one's gonna be even less, 3,500. Okay. It's looking a little bit, maybe these need to get a little bit over. Okay. Okay, so let's play around with this. So right now we have that as the body. What did we use? This is a routine. So maybe we can bump that. I don't have them all memorized. What size is there? Okay, I think that's better.
Looks good.
A little bit more prominent. Okay. All right, so I feel like our detail page is coming together. And now we can start thinking about some of the other pages. So before we move on from the detail page, does the audience feel like there's any kind of information that might be missing at this point for them to kind of press play on this video? So we have kind of that sub information. We have an idea of, all right, this kind of like a review system, but those top adjectives that other users are using. I feel really motivated to do it. Anything else that we might want to throw in there?
That quote's got me motivated.
Yeah, I feel like it's I gotta do it.
I gotta do it. I can't wish for it.
Yeah, I gotta do it.
Nothing's coming out of those wishes. I gotta work for it.
All right. Well,
I wish I had that same motivation when I leave and actually go do the workout.
yeah, after the stream
this.
is over, we can all go do our workouts. Okay, well, we can move on for now. So I did want to pop into kind of the prototyping tab here and start to show how we can start kind of building this out as a prototype. We only have 2 screens at this point, but we can just show, you know, how we can start seeing how these pages flow together. So I can click over here on the prototype tab and say that I want to highlight this, you know, this is the clickable area, and this is going to link out to this page here. And so let's set our transition as just a dissolve based on a tap. So if we go back to our Discover, and now we can click on that play button and we can start to see it as that scrollable page.
Hi, we're John. New person from chat.
Oh, nice. And then we can see that cool, we click on that and it starts to transition to that detail page. So we'll keep coming back to the prototype feature, but I just wanted to call that out as something that we can also be thinking about as we parallel path the rest of the
That prototype feature actually works on when you connect it to your phone as well.
Yeah, once you have the app set up, correct?
It helps a lot viewing it on the phone.
Definitely. Yeah, no, super helpful. And it's also great if you're wanting some quick feedback from other people. You can just pop over to coworker, ask them to play around with it.
Random person at the coffee shop.
Yep.
I don't encourage that. It's a possibility. I'm just saying.
Friends, family.
Or friends.
Yeah.
I don't know why I went to the coffee shop person right away. I could just have friends.
But it's always good to get other eyes on things when you've been so heads down on it for a while.
I do find that it helps a lot because we tend, at least for myself, I tend to get so focused on something and I know all of it and how it should work, and getting a fresh pair of eyes sometimes brings things to light I might have missed.
Absolutely. And I think it's always fun if you're kind of doing a presentation or a demo to, you know, pass around a phone as you're reviewing it with, you know, stakeholders. It's a good way to bring it to life.
Yeah. Do you ever show it off when it's just wireframes, there's no content inside?
Yeah, so this I'd say is a pretty high fidelity, but I think just to get a sense of like structure of the page, length of the page, where the fold hits, it's good to do that exercise right away. It doesn't have to be so far down the line. So it's never too early, I think, to start looking at things on a screen.
Yeah, completely agree. And don't forget, guys, in 10 minutes, we are gonna do a chat and win, where you can win a chance to win 100 stickers from Sticker Mule, so stay tuned for that.
Awesome.
In that same vein, I would love to actually ask the chat, when do they tend to show it off to somebody and get some feedback?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Ooh la la. Richard said ooh la la.
Probably about this sticker excitement, maybe. be.
Yeah, probably. He's really excited. I'll be excited for stickers.
I love stickers.
I want to populate this laptop with a ton of stickers.
Okay. So as the audience is thinking about that, I'm just going to quickly put together what the page is going to look like as it's playing the video. So we use a built-in video player, so there's not a huge amount of flexibility there, but this is just for a mock-up as part of the flow. I like to always include all the screens just so it's clear. Whoops, what is going on? We're gonna just put this as a black background, and then I think I have my video player.
Oh wow, you guys have the full video player.
We didn't, it's kind of a third party, so there's not a lot of design flexibility in there, but it just kind of shows what a user would be experiencing as they're clicking through. Okay, so they finished the video, and now I think there's an opportunity once they have finished watching the video, what do we kind of surface to them at this point? So are they done? Do they leave? Do we want them to kind of circle back and report anything to us? How are we collecting this information? I think that's something to think about, is like the end-to-end journey. So a while back, I take a lot of our studio classes because I think it's really interesting to think about what someone experiences in the studio as all those different moments and touch points, and if we can bring that into the online. So something for me that's really memorable is when you walk out of the studio, usually an instructor kind of just like gives you, you did a really good job, they acknowledge that, and they just ask you, like, how did you feel after that class? And it is a nice moment to then kind of think about, oh yeah, I do feel like, more balanced or stronger or accomplished or proud, whatever that set of adjectives or, feelings are. So I really am interested in thinking about how we can bring that online as like a way to kind of close the whole experience.
Okay, cool. We should ask the chat some adjectives. I would go for exhausted. I'm normally too tired after a class like that to say anything.
But is that a good feeling?
I need some like 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes to sit down for a moment and reevaluate how I feel.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, I think it's important in whatever we design here that there's that ability to kind of opt out too. Like everything should be optional. If you don't want to tell us how you feel, that's totally fine. It should not be a forced thing in the experience.
Oh, I would love to say something. Just there would be
just
delay.
A little bit of time. Totally. Awesome.
But no, I feel good. No, I feel happy I went and did something active. Yeah. Because designing is very much a sedentary job. Even if you have a stand-up desk, it's still just kind of standing.
Definitely.
So it's nice to once in a while get out, go for a walk, really get the blood flowing.
Yeah, absolutely. Have those little desk stretches. Okay, so I am gonna start thinking about, I like the idea of feelings. I think that's a good one. If there's a way to kind of track those feelings and report those back out to people. So since we're on mobile, I'm gonna start building this out as kind of like a modal overlay to the detail page, so it feels a little bit more lightweight. I think when something is like an overlay or a bottom sheet, it makes it feel like it's not as heavy of an action, that you can exit out of it and you're back kind of in the context that you were in. So I'm gonna start there. So I've grouped everything here just so that when I start building the overlay, it's not gonna be hard to kind of unselect certain things. So we're just going to start to build this out. I'm gonna make this.
Are you thinking about it? You're thinking about the red?
Maybe. I was gonna see what happens if we bump down. Could be kind of fun. Or is that a little intense for the end of a workout?
Is it intense? Yeah, maybe. Do you guys ever use blue? No, blue's
not really a brand color, but there's opportunity, I think, to.
That works. I think that works because you just got finished.
Yeah, it feels softer.
A little lighter on your toes, maybe. Hopefully, I don't know.
Yeah, we can play with it. I mean, what's great is that it's we don't have to commit to it right now. We can always play around with it once we've built out the rest of the modal.
Not putting a band on it just yet. So.
No, it's the great part about digital, right? Is that there's constant flexibility and evolving our decisions. And I think that's always a good way to think about kind of designing an experience too, is like it's never done, right? This might be MVP, V1.
Oh yeah.
There's always room for the next version, and it should never be a one and done. I think that it's always, we make the best decisions we can based on the information we have, but once something's out in the wild, like we're always gathering data and feedback and insights to continue improving. So I think, that's just kind of a good way to feel like there's pressure, obviously, on all your decisions, but there's also room for changing down the road and evolving.
Absolutely. It's really a delicate balance, especially when you have a deadline or these sprints, which is what normally is.
Right.
These sprints for new
Yep.
iterations, where to focus your primary attention on and what things you can be like, okay, didn't get the most love, but we could always come back to this.
Definitely. And I think, as a designer working with product, like for me, I'm always trying to think about, okay, what is the long-term, like blue sky vision, so that we can then work backwards from that and say, cool, for MVP, we're just gonna focus on these key features, but we know at least what direction we wanna go in the future.
So Stephen was actually talking about the separation between the keywords and the quotes. So how do you determine how much space to give the padding on the card there without it making it seem too busy probably or too much space?
Yeah, I think if I did have I should have put those padding kind of lines in here, but I would start playing around with like, what's the biggest one that we have? What does that look like? At this point, it's kind of eyeballing it based on like what feels readable when I kind of reference it on the screen. But then I would cross-reference those exact paddings down the road.
Oh, Sundar said he would love to share that with friends.
Oh, as a share feature?
Yeah, as a share feature.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Get some friends doing it with you at the same time.
Definitely. I think that there's a huge opportunity to kind of create a flywheel effect, right? Of like, how do you get people in the experience, then how do you get them to be like the evangelist almost of the product? So let's think about, okay, that's a really good idea. We can think about a share feature. So one thing that's interesting to think about with share is like, where in the user journey does that sit? So if I think about it on the detail page, does that make sense if I haven't played the video yet? Should the share kind of come post watching the video? I feel like that could be something that we think about in kind of these follow-up screens. So that's a great idea. Let's definitely talk about that one as we think about what kind of lives in this end screen.
So come back to that.
Yes, really good idea though.
I love that. Yeah, I would love to get some friends doing it with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's it's easier to have accountability and motivation when you're with a group.
I'm also very competitive.
So
adding the competitive element to this would definitely get me on.
Yes.
More inclined to play as many of these videos.
Keep going.
And do them.
Okay, so let's start thinking about this end card, I'm going to call it.
Chat and win in 15 seconds.
Oh, okay. All right. I will take a pause then. Just gonna leave it at an open-ended question.
Oh, is that the question you're gonna ask?
Oh, for the chat.
All right, chat and win. Okay, awesome. So we'll be right back for chat and win. We're back. Hey everyone, let's get some stickers. All right, so for the question we're gonna ask you today, what is your favorite pump up song? Doesn't have to be for workout, you could be doing work, but favorite pump up song.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Pump up song. Oh man, this is very on the spot.
Very on the spot. I'll go first then. I think anything by Eminem.
That's a good one.
Caravan Palace, maybe. That's a pretty good one. What? J-Rock. I don't know, what else is there? There's so many good ones.
Yeah, I'm like drawing a complete blank.
Take Me to Church.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That is a good one. What else?
I feel like Sia has some good,
Yeah.
like, kind of
Stronger by Kelly. Can't go wrong with that. Some Kelly Clarkson in
maybe
there.
some.
Cannibal Corpse. Lose Yourself. That's the one I was thinking of. And Stephen Love. You are the winner today. Congratulations. So thank you for joining us for that. For those of you who didn't get a chance to win, we do have a promo code for 10 stickers for $1 by using that promo code. And someone should message you with the details of that win.
Awesome. Congrats.
Congrats.
What am I going to do with all those stickers?
Just like place them randomly around the house.
Everyone gets a sticker.
A sticker of Nick Cage and just place it anywhere he wants, just to scare people.
Awesome.
I thought of that. I just did.
Can't go wrong with, it's a friendly sticker. Okay, so back to this end card. I think, we'll have some kind of question. I think that we want to think about how we can use this card as like a benefit to the user. So how are they using it? But then is there any information that, the business can use to kind of or get information about how well the video performing or how to recommend content to other users? So thinking about kind of both sides of that at this point.
Do you also envision this particular portion as a way to give feedback to the instructor as well?
Definitely. I mean, I think as we think about, like how we're rating, the intensity or categorizing it, I think that there's a way to start to bubble up those feelings with like, cool, if it's max intensity, maybe tired is a good like a good feeling, or strong, matching those with the category, I think is good feedback to the instructor, whoever is kind of curating the classes, but mutually beneficial.
And don't forget, everyone, that we have the Daily Creative Challenge for Adobe XD Design Feedback in about an hour. If you didn't get a chance to view the video, there are still details on the top right of the chat under Challenge.
Awesome.
And when you get those, you could just post them over in the Adobe Discord under the current challenge channel.
Perfect. I look forward to it. Yeah.
Me too.
Okay, so we're gonna start to think about how a user might feel. So I think it's important to give them, maybe we can use those pill buttons again as kind of like top words that maybe we think that someone might feel, and then they can start to like multi-select so that we can, one, be able to start to fill out this kind of information, and then also give them that opportunity to kind of report back for themselves. So let's throw this in here. Oops. I'm gonna lock this down, these two things, so that they're not moving around on us. Okay. So this was I think we chose this as like our max intensity video. So maybe we can start putting in some adjectives. What does the chat usually feel after like a very intense workout? Some adjectives that you would describe or you would feel?
Exhausted.
Exhausted.
What do I feel?
Oops.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. There's a lot of.
I think it's definitely kind of a personal, subjective thing. Yeah, maybe like motivated, pumped.
But you're not on the same wavelength. Hungry.
That's a good one.
I mean, we do these workouts, so we can eat as many of these burritos as possible.
I feel like hungry is a good one too, because it's like you could be like I'm hungry for food, but it's like hungry for more too, right? Like you're.
Oh wow, you're really getting into that. Dehydrated, yeah. Energized. I should drink more water.
Maybe there's an opportunity to like put a little reminder in the app. Energized.
Oh, look at that.
Send some push notifications. Let's see. Maybe winded.
Don't think we can use dehydrated though. ended.
I feel like there might be some like pride. Maybe you feel proud that you accomplished
It's true.
it.
I would feel very proud. I was able to accomplish it. Tomorrow knows where it's at. Gorillas feel good.
Yes, we're back to song.
Feel good.
Yeah, good. I was thinking, yeah.
Accomplished.
Accomplished is a good one. Let's see. Accomplished. All right.
So is there anything, should we add any bad ones?
Yeah,
I want to say bad, but
some ones that are like less, maybe tired. It's not necessarily bad, but I mean, so which ones are you kind of thinking about as less positive?
well, I know
Like
we're
in
like when
pain.
in pain. Well, pain is one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a good one. Actuated. But like instance when you're doing weights, sometimes you don't do a set and you fail that set.
Oh, I see.
So I feel a little
Right, defeated.
defeated.
maybe?
Yeah. Depressed. Well, you went far into that one.
Oh man. Okay, I think we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That feels good. Don't think we want to give too many options because I feel like it might be a little overwhelming to parse through. Because I feel like if one of our design principles based on kind of our user problem is around like efficiency and that we want to always protect a user's time, I feel like we have to think about that kind of through the whole process too. That if you did finish a workout, we don't want to then ask you a long
billion
questionnaire. Yeah, exactly. Okay. But I do think that if there is kind of a experience where it's like, cool, I can start to see how I felt after different workouts and maybe track that over time, that could be really beneficial to see my own progress in that kind of way.
And in a way, the coding could also suggest things to you.
Exactly. Yeah, so I think it's like cool if you really did after this, you're like, I feel defeated and I feel tired and exhausted, then maybe it's kind of a recommendation that maybe it's a lower intensity workout next time, or maybe there's kind of
Don't go
different
full max on your first one.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, so we can have them start to select those, and then I'm trying to think how we want to lay this out. If we do want to have some kind of tracker, I'm wondering what would happen, how many things we want somebody to select. I'm just gonna group these.
So are you gonna limit them
Yeah,
to only a
oops.
few selections?
Yeah, I'm trying
Like
to
five
think
only
about.
or four?
Yeah, so then if we did want them to kind of track that, what's realistic for somebody to select?
Welcome, Adam, and good night, Sundar.
Just want to select these guys. Okay. We'll worry about that in a moment. My grouping here is a little bit
Wonky.
yeah. I'm gonna try to organize these.
Whenever I do that and I'm in the design system
go.
page,
Yeah.
I'm always afraid to go to the layers.
Yeah,
area.
I mean, we can check back and see what's happening.
You know, yours is pretty good. Mine tends to be a huge mess.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit yesterday, right? Around like how we stay organized. See, I'm already doing it where it's just like a copy and paste of the same page. So we can rename these just so that we're being clear. So this is our detail page. This is our video player. And this is our end card. Okay. And then we're gonna work on this guy again. Okay. I think that worked. Let's see what's anything in the audience. Let's have them select 3. I feel like having a top 3 is beneficial because I think that will help us as we kind of collect data as well. And again, make it a little bit more streamlined for the user. So select, we'll put some information in there. 3 feelings.
Would you have a tracker there as well? Like you selected 1 and then goes up to 2, which is like 2.
Like a progression. Yeah, we can start designing what this looks like when 1 is selected and start to see that as a prototype perhaps too. So let's, this is my locked page. We'll shrink this up a bit. And we can throw that button on there for now. Primary button. Continue. And since this button, since nothing's been selected, we're just gonna bring down that opacity because it's inactive. And we can make this more centered. And then I wonder if we have an X icon in here so that this page is optional. They can always exit out. Cool. Okay, so let's see what it starts to look like when we fill one of these in.
So how would you feel after this particular workout?
After this one, I think I would feel proud. I think that's especially if I did in the morning. I'd be like, oh, I did this at 6 a.m. I'm feeling pretty proud that I woke up and did this. I would feel pretty proud if I did that at 6 in the morning too. So we're gonna say that one. Let's see what filled in. If we want this to look like proud. Should we put exhausted in there too?
Well, I was gonna say motivated.
Motivated? Okay, let's do motivated.
How do I turn multiple artboards into a single design for use in my portfolio? It depends on the kind of portfolio and...
do you mean if you want to kind of design your full pages in XD versus kind of like copy and pasting into InDesign or...
I think that's what he's asking.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see.
I guess just use a bigger artboard and just copy over the assets.
Yeah, because we can say we want to make this, these are all web-based, but like, yeah, a bigger page, and it's like, cool, we want to start having that like progression of all the screens. We probably have to copy.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way for you to just merge
like
them.
Layer them on.
Oh, so yeah, he wants to design his full page in XD.
Okay.
It's
yeah,
probably
I
the
would
best way to do it.
something.
And to group them, by the way.
And then you could like throw a little screen, like a little outline of an iPhone in there too, so it looks a little bit cleaner. But I guess you could make, say you wanted to have like a consistent title block and like descriptor on each page, you could start to build that out as a component almost, right? Like this whole page as a component.
Yeah, oh, I see what you're saying. So those, the art, the canvases as a component?
Right, so that it always has like a title slot and a descriptor.
Oh, yeah, you could do that. Frankie recommended states as well.
States.
Yeah, states would work to show off here. States being where you could change what happens in the prototype. You hover over, click on it.
Right.
Rather than have multiple artboards for that one particular function.
I see.
It's a pretty new feature, and it's really, really cool.
But yeah, then you can export all your artboards as like a PDF if you wanted that too.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way to directly export it to Behance.
Oh, to Behance. That I don't know.
But they make it pretty easy. You could just export it as a PDF or a large PNG.
Yeah, and then upload all the
just upload it.
images. But yeah, good question. It's good to think about like the whole process of like, cool, you make your wireframes here, and then you need to put them in another
how do you get
program.
them
out? Good question. Because we can, I won't export everything right now, but it is possible. Okay. So back over here, just gonna change my color. Make it white so it pops a little bit better.
Frankie coming in with the shortcuts. Command E for macros.
Oh, for
quick
export. Command E. Okay, good to know. I'm afraid it's gonna, but it's good to know all the shortcuts. I'm still learning all the different quick ways.
Oh, there's so
to
many. And
jump
someone was
around.
asking yesterday about them too. Someone linked them to all the shortcuts on Adobe XD.
That's so
So
nice.
a lot of them makes it way easier.
Yeah.
It speeds up the
Then
process.
kind of going in through menu or right-clicking. Awesome.
And if you are new to Adobe XD, we highly recommend checking out the daily creative challenges. They tend to give you a task to go through and work in Adobe XD and help you learn the software. And we just kicked it off this week. So please take a look at that. Look at the top right for challenge, and you can get all the details there. And we'll be reviewing them later today too. So please submit those because we're excited to check those out.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the best way to kind of learn all these different programs and things is just to kind of dive in and
dive
just play
right
with
in.
it yourself. It's hard to kind of remember everything as you're like reading through.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I learned Photoshop when I was younger, back in high school.
Yeah.
Just go in.
Yep. Practice. See what you
Practice.
can make. Trial and
Mostly
error
things to just
sometimes.
make my friends laugh.
Yeah, exactly. Content, it's all about just practicing.
Just practice.
Awesome. So we selected a few different things here. And then trying to think what else. So as we think about the idea of like referring a friend, which I think is a really good one, starting to think about, I feel like maybe I feel like it's competing information if we have that kind of live on this page, but maybe there's an opportunity as either like a secondary modal or it becomes like a module on the page. So let's say that this is kind of becoming our flow here. And then once they click continue, we'll have them come back to the detail page.
I also love how supportive the Adobe community tends to be.
Yeah, for sure. There's like everyone's trying to help each other learn new things, and everybody has something to
It's a
learn, so we
learning
can
community.
all benefit from it.
So what are we doing here?
Yep, so I'm trying to think about where that refer a friend should live. So maybe we can start to build it as another modal, and then we can figure out, maybe it's like this one only shows up certain times versus the refer a friend, so we have different options. So we'll just kind of...
Another thing to think about now too is, do they have the app already, or do they?
The friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's kind of like, how are they going to get that information, and where does that send them? So
It's funny, a simple feature like that.
this one's
spawns-
complicated. It's very complicated.
It's deceivingly simple. It's way more complicated than just.
Yeah, because I think, so for today I will just kind of dive into what it could look like, but I think if I was to start thinking about this as like a fuller feature, I would start probably from the kind
System
of journey.
flow.
Yeah, exactly, because it is like there's the path as the referrer, and then there's the path as the referee, right? So it's like, if somebody is sending this to me, do I get it as an email? Am I getting it as a text? Like, how am I receiving this referral? And what do I have to go through as the referee to
True.
get the...
There's so many different avenues for you to send it. Text messages,
Yep, exactly.
other kind of messengers, WhatsApp, Facebook. Frankie is asking, do you always start designing small 5.5?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I do try to start mobile first, and I always start to design for the smallest iPhone, which is the 320 wide. My thinking is that if you can fit everything on the smallest phone, it will fit on a bigger phone. So it's kind of like the extreme case, and then being able to, build up from there. One thing that we were showing yesterday is the new feature of the responsive resize, which makes it super easy to adapt. So say I do want to put in this bigger phone, and I'm just gonna take, what we did earlier today, paste that on there. I can then make sure this responsive resize is turned on and just pull everything over, and it does it so
It's magic.
nicely. Yeah, so that makes it really easy.
You have some Harry Potter stuff in here.
It's so nice, because historically I would have had to go in and like readjust everything very manually, but that makes it so much easier.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was working on a project last night, and I started with desktop, but I was thinking mobily, for mobile as well. And it took me 5-10 minutes at the end of a very long project to just resize it to mobile.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, that stuff, I think, as designers, it's like maybe we start with mobile, and that's like, oh no, I have to do desktop. Like, it's like this whole other beast sometimes to have to apply it. So the efficiency around that is really helpful. Same with iPad. I feel like people always
I know.
It's like, who thinks about iPad these days? But it's just as important.
No, it's totally a thing. I do it all the time.
And then it's like both orientations of the iPad.
And then do you decide to do the mobile version for the iPad, or do you do the full desktop version?
Yeah, I mean, that's always the question too. I think it depends if it's an app or if it's a web experience. I think we've been doing mobile for our iPad in the portrait view, right? Yeah.
The portrait view.
And then desktop, I think, for the landscape.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a good question. What do you do?
Just because of a personal preference, I tend to really get annoyed when I can't get to the desktop version on something closer to like a laptop size. So I tend to try to push for desktop version.
On both orientations?
Yeah, but there's also different beasts, because as opposed to a desktop where you have a mouse, clicker, now you're working with gestures.
Yep, exactly.
So there's a lot more of those iPhone or mobile elements on a tablet.
Yeah.
Because it is a mobile device.
It's just a big phone.
It's really hard balancing that out.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you have all that real estate, but people are used to the gestures.
No, it's a good point. Thinking about the usability, how people use experiences, it changes your design sometimes too. So it looks like there's a question about I don't think that you can merge an artboard on another artboard. I think you have to copy all of the information on the artboard and paste it onto
you could do maybe is make it a component. Like, don't do the artboard as a component just yet, but move it, make a copy, and make that entire thing a component, and then put it into the artboard. That might work. If grouping it and copying it doesn't work.
Yep, I think that makes sense. That seems like the most efficient way. And then you can reuse that screen over and over if you're designing flows. Okay, so we're doing the refer a friend now, which...
Hi, Gizem. Welcome to the chat.
So I feel like the copy choice on refer a friends is always really interesting. Like when I've looked at competitors, it's always kind of playful of like, I know like Casper Mattresses has something really interesting. It's like friends don't let friends sleep on a bad mattress or something. Like it's this way of like
sending each other mattresses.
I don't know, but that was one example that I found in referrals of making it really playful.
So it seems a little passive aggressive. I crashed at your place a couple nights ago. You need a different
Maybe that's not exactly what it was, but it was something around like a little more interesting than like refer your friend to this thing. So I'm not going to be as creative at this very moment, but loved by 3.
Don't bar yourself from a good workout.
Raise the bar for.
Oh, even better.
Ask a friend to join you on your next workout.
Ask a friend to join you.
Is that right?
On your next workout.
On your next workout. Okay. So, the information that you would need to, you're gonna, you have to enter in your friend's name. You're gonna need the name an email field, I'm assuming. I feel like email is probably the most typical way of kind of sending out referrals. And then maybe some kind of flexibility in what message you send as the referrer to a referee. So we can start to think about those different fields. So where's our field here? Empty single field, that sounds right. This might be for desktop. I don't need this name. Oops. Copy this whole thing. Email. Oh no. My copying is.
Everyone did that problem all the time.
Yeah. It's just like, it's hard to tell what gets copied.
It's because it's grouped inside of a group.
Got it.
And then you have to keep clicking until you get to the level.
Groups sometimes throw
And then I get too stubborn I keep doing that instead of just going to the layers.
Right, you're like, just
I'm like,
delete
no,
it.
I'm already here.
Yeah,
Just
so
work.
if we went into layers, we could start to see, right, what's in our group. Okay. So,
So I'm a little confused with Richard's question. The issues I have on my UI design. I use a shape larger than artboard. Might have to ask you to clarify that a bit. Yeah. That'd be really cool, Richard, if states and design in one artboard would be great.
yeah. It is nice, though, that at least you can do everything in one application,
Yeah.
right? Because I think, again, historically, it's like, okay, you design in one, and then you have to prototype in another, and then you
To export all those assets.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're exactly. Updating somewhere, it's not really updating in the prototypes. You're redoing I've redone
I know.
prototypes so many times because it's like, oh, we changed something
One
in
small
the
thing,
file.
too, so you have to
yeah,
redo
it's
the
like the
entire
color
thing.
of the button or something. Yeah. So I do appreciate all the efficiency that you can do in XD.
That speeds things up so much. Hi, Eric. Welcome to the chat.
Your personal message. Okay, so I like it when different applications have like a little preview of what you could type in here, because I think sometimes you're like, what am I supposed to tell my friend about this thing? So we can maybe put that in.
So what do you think what would be the, would you just say your personal message, or are you gonna give them an example?
Yeah, I think I'll put in some like placeholder copy. Maybe it's an opportunity to talk about why, because it helps me. What was the word that this person makes me feel motivated? It makes me feel motivated and energized. Would love to try it with you someday. Okay. Obviously, placeholder font. And I think when we're designing too, it's like thinking about what fidelity makes sense to present to stakeholders at what point. Because I think when it gets so high fidelity, sometimes people will get really attached to like, well, I don't think it should say that message in the copy,
that's
or
a
I don't
big
think
one.
it's. And so it's like, do you put FPO on everything? How do you dumb it down so it feels real enough, but it's not like we're critiquing the wrong things? Because I think that can happen too, where it's like, oh no, at this point, like we're not even critiquing the visuals. We're just critiquing the blocks and the content, or I think it's easy to get too high fidelity too early.
Yeah. So where do you normally, with bar 3 or just in general, how far in do you guys start showing things to stakeholders?
I mean, I like to bring people in as early as possible, so I will bring people in even when there's like hand-drawn sketches because I want to just review a concept. So when it is really just like a hand-drawn sketch or just like blocks that don't have any kind of text or imagery, it really helps focus on like, oh, I don't even, maybe it's like reviewing the concept of collections or a hero or like a filter. It really helps focus on just the idea rather than the final content and words and imagery, because that's what people I think dwell on when they see it looking really fancy and
absolutely.
perfect. So
Yeah, I've had that before where instead of looking at the content of the layout,
yeah,
saying, well, what do you think of how this is structured? Instead, it moves more towards, I'm not liking that blue.
right.
That blue could be more blue,
Right.
but not too blue.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I appreciate that, but let's go back to the structure portion. We don't have to spend 10 minutes on that.
Exactly. So I think, we can quickly, if it's helpful for people to see maybe how we would design this lower fidelity, we can do that really quickly, or we can keep moving on. But I think that there's ways just to block out components at a high level.
Yeah. Yeah, I always tend to go black and white too. In those first.
Yeah, just like a lot of
initiatives.
gray boxes, a
So
lot
much
of
gray.
like little words that are just like lines. And
No one's gonna complain about that gray.
yeah,
That
exactly.
gray is too gray.
Exactly.
Make it a little less gray.
So I think it really depends kind of what stage you're at. This, I would say, is very high fidelity for an early concept development, but it's so easy because we already have the system, right, to just make it look pretty dialed.
But for those who don't have a system, that's always.
Yeah, it's a great way to start of just blocking things out.
And if you're working on multiple wireframe stuff, you can always design a wireframe design system for yourself and just start bringing things in, just have an idea.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
a
flesh it
great
out to
idea.
the kind of system they would normally use on their own
Definitely.
branding and stuff.
Definitely. I think it helps with things like lockups and, card design.
And there's plugins too to help flesh those things out.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna make this page just a little bit longer. And
Dwayne Johnson, apparently. A person named Dwayne Johnson is trying to,
facts.
for a health fitness app.
Yeah, he'd be a good one to get feedback from.
Just maybe, yeah. He brings a personal gym to every movie studio.
Oh my
movie
gosh,
set
I
he
could
does.
see. That's part of his job, right? It's part of his brand, just kind of
Health.
yeah,
Yeah.
health and fitness.
I follow him on Instagram.
Really?
Yeah, and
I
he eats
feel
like a
like he'd be a
plate
good
of
one.
cookies
Oh my gosh.
every Sunday. It's crazy.
Okay, so, all right, so what information we have here? We have kind of what's going on. You're asking someone to help to join you. We might need some more information here because I feel like if I was a user landing on this, it's not as clear. Am I supposed to put my name in here? Maybe we need a description of like enter in a friend's name to refer them and like what are you referring them to? So I think we need to add a little bit more information.
I'm assuming that it'll already populate my stuff, like email, subject,
Yep, exactly. There'd be some kind of
thing in
yeah
there.
default. Yeah, I think it's always an exercise of figuring out like the least amount of text that you need to communicate something, but you also don't want to ever make your user guess what's happening.
Oh, yeah. And this is where
especially-
system flows and journeys really help.
Yep. And what I think it makes a big difference too of like if we build this out as like a end card, where does that live? Because if this is like the first thing that somebody sees when they enter into the app, they're gonna be like, I don't, why am I referring somebody? I haven't even used this or done this before. So we have to think about who the audience is that would be referring somebody and when they might do that.
Maybe after like 5 of them, they've already
Exactly.
started using it, they're getting used to it. Like,
Right. Yeah, I think we have to think about that for sure. Okay, so by referring a friend to bar 3, they will get
100 stickers.
yeah. That's what, So also, it's thinking about like, what's the benefit to me if I referred? What do I get, right? Because there has to be a give and take. Like, it's good for the friend, but do I get anything by referring?
A healthy lifestyle.
You get a friend to work out with you. That's what you get. So referring a friend to bar 3, you get, we'll say, we're going to give them a deal. You get 50% off your next month, and your friend gets...
That's a pretty good deal. That's a really good deal.
We're just giving it away first month. We'll say their first 2 weeks for free. Got to sweeten the deal a little bit. Okay. And then I think, again, as we build out the idea of referring a friend, is it people who have been longer term subscribers, maybe they get a better incentive where it's like your month is free if you refer X amount of people. But yes, I think this is a complicated one.
And that goes into the business needs and how do we balance that out.
Definitely. It's a big one. Lots of different
Cogs,
use cases and of paths. Enter their information below. Okay. And obviously we would clean up this copy down the road, but we're just playing around with it right now.
Just getting a look at it. Try not to use lorem ipsum, just have an idea of what we're going to be putting in terms of content.
So then we can give, say if this did get passed off to copy, it's like, hey, if you are to clean up this message, like don't make it 6 lines of text, don't make it 10 lines of text, because that's not going to fit in the context that we have here.
There's so many different lorem ipsums too. I'm pretty sure there's a health lorem ipsum.
Oh, really?
Probably. I know there's a Star Wars one.
Oh, really? That's fun.
I've used that one before. No one's caught me on that so far.
Sounds much more fun. Yeah, I think lorem ipsum does serve its purpose sometimes. But I think sometimes it's helpful, especially as you're kind of presenting it out to communicate a concept. Because if this all had lorem ipsum, if I was if I was sending this to a PM to review, they're not going to have any idea of like, what is this page? What's supposed to live in these fields? Like, what is going on? So,
what are you sending it off?
Exactly, yeah.
Don't forget, guys, 22 minutes till the deadline for the Daily Creative Challenge. You could take a more detailed look at what that was in the top of the page. If there are other creative challenges you want to take a look at, go ahead and send those over as well on the Discord channel.
Perfect. Awesome. So I think, maybe if we, had any kind of like TNC thing that someone needed to check, we could add that in here. But for now, I think this makes sense as that information gathering, at least. And then trying to think if someone fills this out.
To see if it's recommending adding a skip button, right? Because if they were landing right after the how do you feel?
That's a really good point.
We were like, not right now.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go get some water because I'm dehydrated.
Yeah, exactly. I need to lay down.
Electrolytes, eat a banana maybe.
No, it's a really good call out. I think that
was a really good suggestion.
We need to make something like this, especially, always optional.
Yeah, and this goes back to what you were saying earlier too, like handing it off to the designer, asking another designer. Yeah. Sometimes you get a little focus, like, that's a good idea. I didn't even think about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So we could have a skip. I think there's an opportunity too of like, don't ask me again, but we'll just put skip for now. Because maybe they don't want this pop-up to ever show ever again.
Very angrily, don't ask me again.
So people they just want to continue on, which I think is super valid. That
I don't want to refer my friends.
Yes, we'll add the skip to that as well. This one. Skip. Perfect. Okay. It's a little crowded, so we can always look back here, see how it's looking, because I think too, like when we're designing a modal, it's always important to make sure that you don't want a scrollable modal, like you don't want the modal to cut off below the fold, so making sure that it all fits in one screen view is important. And making sure that your CTAs don't fall out of the screen as well.
And this will continue to get bigger with the different versions we have. I mean, for different phones.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the extreme case.
Yes, gotta see what it looks like on the teeny
Gotta be
tiny.
inclusive.
Teeny tiny phone. Okay, let's see. So now, if someone submits, what happens? So that's our bigger one. We can kind of just show kind of the end of this path. So I guess this screen would have the state of like the inactive submit button and the active. So if we were truly laying out the whole flow, I think it's important to show that so that we can make it as clear as possible what's happening. And then this would get filled out. So I'm gonna refer it to, got multiple layers going
Dwayne Johnson.
on. Oh yeah.
You would use this. I would want to send it to my friend, DJ.
D. Johnson at therock.com, right? And then I'm gonna put in my information.
If I had a nickname like that, I would totally use it. It's my email address.
He has, his own domain, so I think.
Probably. I'm almost certain he does.
Work out. See you soon. Okay. So maybe we can see what this looks like as a prototype. Pop back over there now that we have some more screens. So we're in prototype view. So that one connects here. I'm going to highlight this one. This is gonna go here. Dissolve is nice. Same thing.
Would you recommend music to me? Do you ever do like design with music in the background or listening to music?
Oh, myself? I do. I like to listen to music as I'm designing. I can't like multitask and like listen to a podcast or something because I feel like I get too invested in the podcast that I'm not paying as much attention.
That's totally fair. What kind of music? Do you do Scandinavian death metal or?
I actually love reggaeton. Like I listen to a lot of Spanish music while I'm working because it's just like kind of fun and dancey. As I don't know, it's like very upbeat. So I enjoy listening to that as I'm designing.
I'm totally with you on that. And she does too.
Nice. Yeah, and I like sometimes if you're like really into a project, like listening to like a soundtrack of like Hamilton or something is fun because it like really like keeps
okay,
the
I'm
time.
really glad I'm not the only one because I just thought it goes right through the album of Hamilton because hey, it's a great play.
Exactly.
I don't want to turn this into the live stream about Hamilton, but I highly recommend it. That's a good one.
But I don't want, my fear is always like if I go into a meeting or something and I open my computer and it's like blasting the thing that I was listening to. Gotta always shut everything down. Cool, so we're gonna.
Not sure about the skip button being disabled once there's text in the field because you can start writing something out and then abandon it as you're going through it. Because then that forces them to go back, delete what they had, and then skip.
Sorry, I'm not following.
Oh, so I think, so Tusif was saying about possibly having the skip button be disabled once you start writing inputs, text in the fields.
Yeah, so this here is the blank state. So if there's nothing filled in, we would want this not active, right? And then once it's filled in, we would have it active.
Right, but then he's saying to make the skip button inactive when you're on the.
Oh, I see. I think it could go either way. I think you can skip at any point.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think that we want to make that always like, even if I get to this point, it's like, oh, actually, I don't want Dwayne to see
this. Isn't his thing.
Then I can skip.
He isn't hitting the iron.
Right. It might not be for Dwayne. I don't know.
But that's me making an assumption. I don't know. Maybe DJ does.
But yeah, I think always having like the X always be an option, skip always be an option, I think is good.
Try not to limit their options.
Yeah, because we wouldn't want to have them go back. They wouldn't have to delete everything to then be able to skip. So I think that makes sense.
Instrumentals. I have not heard of that. Do you know what that is?
Is it just kind of like songs without lyrics, like just the background?
Just instrumentals,
or
maybe.
just like
It's like crazy EDM stuff with just instrumentals.
acapella? Is that what it is when there's no, or?
Where they play the instrumentals.
Yeah, where it's just I don't know. Whoops. Okay, making progress here. Okay, so hopefully that all got set up correctly. So let's go through the prototype. So cool, I landed here, scrolling through, I can see different collections, I can filter by time. No, I'm just gonna click on this one. We can start to see what our detail page looks like, get information on if people think this is enough information, make a decision, press play, cool, I'm watching my video. Then I get this end card and I say how I wanna feel, blah, blah, blah. Great, continue. And then we kind of get this nice end card. I can start to fill that out and submit. Okay, so I think that helps at least just kind of show what the flow would look like and see how that feels kind of from a usability perspective. I would of course look at it on my phone to really make sure, but for now that will serve its purpose to kind of click through.
And it's cool, those little pill things could be turned into states. Going more into the prototype aspects of this software, you can get those to be states and then test them out and prototype them.
So that you can select like one at a time.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like there's so many layers to build in. Like once you have your wireframe, then you start to build on the visuals, then you start to build on like the motion design and then your action design. But there's, so much to consider throughout the whole process. All right.
Someone recommended Pink Floyd, and I'm right there with Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah,
It's
there's
one of the
just some
greatest albums.
classics to kind of...
Tasif said about, the reason why he suggested that is because what if you accidentally hit that button? So I think those are things we have to think about when designing, but we have to weigh it out.
Totally. I mean, I think it's a good point though, like as you are viewing on a phone and doing testing, like maybe it is like, okay, the skip is really close to the continue button, and so I could see that happening. So maybe as we're testing it out, like we realize, no, like we need to have significant space between the two, or maybe they, don't live quite so closely because those are drastically different actions.
And then you get into touch padding, right? Interface padding. So it's not just the button, but then how much space do you give around that particular button? Leeway to touch. So I barely touch the edge of that continue, but it still fits.
Those touch targets I think is important too. And like maybe, as we're kind of doing usability testing, thinking about like the spacing even between these, because they are a little bit, they're small and close together. But especially for something like continue and skip, it's a good point that it would not be good if you accidentally hit one.
And one last thing too, Melinda chimed in, she doesn't listen to music because she's deaf. So that's understandable, and that goes into designing for accessibility all the time. Or to think about all the people who might be using your app who might not be able to use certain aspects of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have closed captioning for all of our videos so that they are accessible. But I think it's important to think about, what would this experience look like too if you're colorblind, like making sure that everything's accessible, because there's all these different use cases for sure.
You don't want to feel have people feel excluded.
No, absolutely not. Or that they're the only one using this experience with their own experience. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes left. We're getting pretty close. Was there anything from the audience that they really wanted to make sure got covered before we wrap up today, or should we just continue kind of closing up everything that we have working on right now? Make
just
sure
let
there
us
weren't
know.
any dire
Could maybe
questions before we.
go into what it looks like. What would it look like if it wasn't hi-fi? I wouldn't say hi-fi, but
Oh, yeah.
mid.
Lower fidelity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to listen to podcasts while working. I think it's really important. Sometimes as new designers, we sometimes get so focused on just getting a design down, we sometimes forget about those things. So that's where planning and researching, even before you start creating a screen, helps a lot.
Definitely. Okay, so we can do kind of a mock, like a lower fidelity version, just to show what that could look like. Since we did go pretty high fidelity here. So I'll do that quickly. So just for something like this Discover tab, I would start, I'm gonna not start with the nav since that might be something that gets designed later. We'll just focus on this first card here. So again, everything's grayscale. We're not gonna put any images in, even though it's easy to do so. I think it will distract from what we're trying to communicate. So let's say that we're early on in the process and we really want to communicate, or we want to vet with stakeholders the idea of putting cards on the page and like having a hero as the top slot and having this idea around collections. Like if that's kind of the objective, how would we communicate that in kind of a mock-up? So say this is our hero. I think it's still fine to just have like some kind of low fidelity play button, just so that it's clear like this is a video. Because again, it could be ambiguous of what this rectangle is.
Oh, it's rectangle.
So I'm just gonna, at this point, like say I don't have my system, I'm just gonna draw a little play button. Just for... Okay, doesn't matter.
This is how it always works when you're actually designing.
It's like real time here. Okay, and we're gonna. So really, sometimes if it's super early, I will just put like little bars for text, just to show
I do the same
like
thing.
a walk-up is. And maybe you do have a system where it's like all of your text is like a darker gray and your imagery is a lighter gray. But say like we don't really know what our title's gonna be or what information lives there, but we know we need something. Maybe we need something that's like a little bit less prominent as information. It gets like, yeah, it's pretty high level. Maybe there's like a third line of information that's less important. Yeah, so keeping it really simple at that point. We know we're gonna start to put some kind of divider in there. We don't know what that's gonna look like.
Do you ever sketch these out?
Yeah, so I would start, I think even before this point, it is hand-drawn. And that's just like at the highest level ideation where it's like, I don't even know what a card is, like if I want a card, or it's like just blocking out like hero, additional content, I think you can get really, really high level early on.
Even sketching high level.
It out, yeah. Because then it's really not precious. No one will get too attached to a hand-drawn sketch the same way they will with like a higher fidelity mock.
They're gonna put that in scrapbook at all.
I feel like it's kind of a lost art. I feel like now
Sketching?
that people hand draw wireframe. I think it sometimes gets
Really?
skipped as part of the process.
Yeah, I suppose so. I personally still enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
They're not gonna be pretty at all.
No,
Because
yeah.
it should be just scribble. I use an iPad.
Oh, nice.
So that way I can easily just transfer digitally to like
Yeah.
clients. And so I'm able to just go ahead, do something out real quick. I use a template and then just scribble ideas down sometimes
Yeah.
so if I just have them.
Yeah, and I think it's a good way to make like a session more collaborative too, where it's like if we're in a room and it's like, oh, maybe like let's whiteboard it, or like let's sketch together, so that people feel like they're part of the process.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think it's really nice.
And get their ideas out. I love whiteboarding.
It's easier to kind of just brainstorm that way. Any other questions on there?
They're talking about video cameras.
Oh,
and which
okay.
ones to use.
I can't speak to that. All right, so we have about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
5 minutes,
really,
guys. And if you weren't able to complete this creative challenge for review right now, if you have other creative challenges, go ahead and send those over. We'd love to take a look at those too.
Awesome. Yep, so you'll see that this is really low fidelity, just kind of blocking things out on the page, getting an idea of like what the layout could be, just basically like showing, okay, cool, we have a 1x view for a hero, we have a 2x grid, we still need metadata information on this one, and then like say that we've gotten to this point and we need some kind of, we look at it, it's like, okay, oh, we need a title for this section. Cool, we can throw that in there.
You can even use repeat grids here too.
I know, I forgot. Yeah, we can show what that looks like. So then it's super easy to just be like, we could show multiple versions if we're in a review. Like, what do you guys think of just having 4 versus what do you think of having 6? It's really easy to show.
You can even prototype this with a sliding feature too.
Same thing if we want to show what this could look like with like multiple heroes.
Midori joined us.
Oh, nice. Midori's back. A little koala emoji.
Koala.
There was a koala theme yesterday, I feel like.
Was there?
Right? We kind of had that
Oh
koala.
yeah, we did. We have a
theme. We
koala
had some koala emojis.
site.
Can't go wrong with koalas. So yeah, it's super easy with the repeat to kind of play around with what it could look like. And just show multiple options. I think it's also important as the design process to always be showing variations, right? Like, I don't think you ever want to present as like, this is the final one and done. Like, there's no room for flexibility. But I think it's good to show multiple ways to solve a problem, either a user problem or a business problem, and then have a conversation around it with your stakeholders. Always have like your point of view and your recommendation, but again, showing that you've thought through different things. And it's a way too, if questions come up, to say like, oh yeah, we did explore it this version, this is why we might not think it's the best solution, and show those trade-offs visually.
Yeah, and that's a really important, being able to answer that why question, because that's going to come up every time you suggest some kind of change or new feature. Why?
Right, why
Be
did
able
you
to
make
back
this
up.
decision? Yeah, because I think it's easy for design critiques and design conversations to become very subjective, of like, oh, I don't like it, or I don't, but it's not really about a personal preference. It's like, well, I don't recommend this because XYZ for the user, or because of, you know, other best practices, of always having that kind of grounded reason.
Absolutely. Dwayne Johnson asked what time are the Creative Challenge available, and you can find those at 11:30, normally right before the Adobe XD stream.
Awesome. Cool. So yeah, I think that kind of shows a little bit of how you would start. Lower fidelity, work your way up, and yeah, have probably a more productive conversation that way with your stakeholders.
What's been one of the biggest challenges when dealing with stakeholders?
Biggest challenges. I think it's always good to think about like what lens everybody comes from. So I think like as a UX designer, like my job is to defend the customer experience and be the voice of the user. I think if you're in a room with business stakeholders, like their primary goal or objective may be more grounded in like the business and like the business KPIs, which of course like UX wants to support, but there is that trade-off of like what could be a logical, exclusively business decision might conflict with what's best for the user or break your principles, which I think is why it's so important to have those super clear design principles early on, so that it's like all of our decisions have to go through this set of tenets or principles to make sure that we have something to point to, so it doesn't become like a personal thing of like, no, we shouldn't do this because it's a bad idea. Like, it's never about that. It's about what's best for the user and what adheres to what we're trying to do.
Making sure no one feels personally attacked.
Exactly. It's never about that. And I truly believe if you make the right decision for the user, your KPIs and your business will do better because of that. But I think it's just sometimes you come into a room with different approaches and different priorities.
Absolutely. That's great advice.
What about you? Are we out of time?
We're about out of time. Thankfully, you don't have to answer that question.
Off the hook.
Off the hook for that one. It is now time for the design feedback countdown. The reviewing the daily creative challenges. So let's get to that, and this is exciting. So today they were working on a calendar. So we're gonna take a look at this. Is by Cornelian Block, who gave us the great quote
Awesome.
that I will be quoting all week.
Yeah, but it's a motivating calendar.
It's a motivating calendar. It looks great, first of all. It was a way for me to... No. Oh, maybe there's an open link. There we go. There we go. Take a closer look. So this was to create a calendar.
Okay.
And it looks great. That's my first thought. I love the dark theme.
Yeah, it's super clear of like there's a clear color palette that I feel they're working off of.
A consistent tone, branding.
I imagine this is for a desktop screen.
I think this is for a desktop screen.
I feel like it could be helpful to have kind of a clear hierarchy of text and information, because I think as I'm trying to look at the calendar, the days of the week are much smaller than the like numbers.
Tablet.
Okay,
That's what I was thinking. This makes sense. I would love to open this up on my tablet, being the first thing I go to.
Yeah, it just kind of is like a dashboard for your
That
day.
would be so great. I know what my plans are. I don't use my calendar enough, but this will definitely motivate me to do that.
Absolutely.
Living in SF, I also do always look at the weather.
Yeah.
Because it always changes depending on exactly
Yeah,
where you're
it
at.
dictates like so many things.
So I think overall it looks good. Do you have any suggestions?
I think, just taking an inventory, because there's a lot of information of just figuring out like what is the hierarchy of information. Is it right away? Because it feels like there's kind of the daily tasks, and there's kind of that month view, and then there's kind of like an overview of, I think it says like studying the kind of times at the top. Just having a clear idea of like what is the most important thing for the user to immediately grab, and then what is secondary information, I think could
That's
help
very true.
just with
You could parse some of that information down.
exactly.
Not sure if we really need split list and grid right away. It could probably live somewhere else. Maybe even under settings for quick access.
Yep, for sure. And just thinking, what if that's, because that feels big on the page compared to kind of like the nav information.
It's fighting for attention between this and the Wednesday, February stuff.
But I really like the concept of having that quick view, and being able to, I'm sure as like you use this over and over, you get really trained of like, cool, I'm gonna always look on the left for what I need to do today, and then I can always reference what's coming up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love these things down here. Give you a quick reminder of what's coming up.
Yeah, those key things.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, really nice
Good job. Let's go back. Next up. Simple.
Yeah, super clean.
Curious to know what this means. Is that part of the photo? Who was this? This was by Dust Ninja. I dig the name. Who hasn't always wanted to be a ninja as a kid?
We all aspire to.
We all aspire to be ninjas. This is cool and clean. I like the look. I love the font.
Yeah.
Curious to know what that is.
I feel like maybe having a few more affordances of like, can I tab forward to other months could be helpful. And I'm wondering, like, does the coffee change every day? Do I get like an image of the day?
So do they have one with milk? One without milk?
Yes.
Yeah, I think someone mentioned this yesterday, information sense.
Oh, yeah.
But also just adding more information. So what do you want to lead them to? What do you want them to do? and adding ways to direct them to do something helps.
Yeah, and I think thinking about what are your use cases for the page too. If it is to add events or be notified of events, helps kind of clarify as well.
Cool. And then Cornelia said he's going to repost eventually a interactive prototype.
Oh, cool.
So hopefully he takes a look at our previous videos on how to do that. All right, so that was that creative challenge. So those are the two we had for that particular one. See if we could find anything else. Take a look at this. By Gabby, meet the mites. Maybe I said it wrong. Oh, wrong. Okay, well then why don't we instead... Yeah, why don't we go back and design out a little time zone calculator. Let's take a look at that. No. Okay. Then we're going to do instead, it's probably... Are
there portfolios?
Other portfolios to review? Let's do this one. So a quick portfolio review. Oh, this guy's stuff is really good.
Yeah.
Twitter UI redesign. Why don't we take a look at that?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this is maybe tablet.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they're kind of following more of that card design too. I like that they're kind of highlighting what lives in those different actions. It looks like, I can't quite tell what the icon is, but once they click on that one, on that icon,
oh, these ones,
it kind of opens up and gives more information. So it's nice to kind of see what else is going on this page. I guess it would be helpful, kind of as we were talking about yesterday, just like a little bit of context of what the problem is that they're kind of trying to address in a redesign from the legacy Twitter experience.
Yeah. Like why do you need to redesign this?
Yeah. I'm not as familiar with the current Twitter, actually, so I'm not exactly sure
I
what
haven't used Twitter as much.
what we're comparing to.
I'm on the gram.
But yes, the gram is a go-to. But it looks super clean.
It looks clean.
I mean, I feel like this makes sense for responsiveness. Like I could imagine how these cards kind of reshuffle on a smaller screen, on a mobile device, and the search bar is super clear and prominent to be able to look. It feels a little more Pinteresty, I guess.
Oh, because all the different messages or posts.
Just being
Is it
able
posts?
I know.
I don't use Twitter as
know.
that.
But it seems very clear and clean to me.
Yeah, it's definitely a visually appealing redesign, but from a UX standpoint, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, it does. Now that I'm looking at it a little bit more, it looks like it's a mix of posts and then kind of these like what I refer to as conversation cards. It's like the trends for you. It looks like that could lead you down different paths and the who to follow. But I would say the same thing with thinking about the hierarchy of information. Is this a feed or is this a like recommendations page? Would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone also suggested if this is for desktop or maybe make the menu a little bit smaller. Because tablet doesn't look that bad for tablet. I kind of like it that size. But yeah, some direction, some context. I think there was another thing in here. Quick. Menu button. So it looks like it would probably be for desktop. The visuals are on point, though.
Yeah, I know. It's really nice.
Yeah. But yeah, maybe just more content, and I think that goes in general in terms of for portfolios. Just adding more context of what you're doing, why you're doing it, what you are trying to focus on in this. Is it just visuals? Trying to do the UX portion, make it more functional. give people an idea of your mindset going into this project.
Yeah, and I think if it is a redesign too, maybe like part of your process was an audit of the legacy or the existing experience and kind of calling out what you don't think is successful for the user or from different design perspectives could help show like what you're trying to solve moving forward.
Well, in that same vein, do you have recommendations on what people are beginning and trying to do redesigns or trying to design something new?
Yeah.
Should they go and find something established like Spotify and do a redesign, or should they go a bit smaller?
Yeah.
Maybe a mom and pop shop, restaurants, e-commerce.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of fun to kind of create your own project because then you can, I think it's really interesting to figure out like what kind of needs are you interested in solving and like what kind of problems excite you. I think it's hard to know when you're redesigning an existing experience what the user problems are until you kind of dig into that. But if you are like starting from scratch and it's like, I'm really interested in solving problems for a certain group of people trying to do this action, it really gives you the whole, the ability to execute the whole design process, which I think is great for beginners to kind of go through all those different steps and be able to do like lightweight research and testing with people. That would kind of be my recommendation.
That's a great recommendation and great advice. I'm 100% with you because then it shows off what you're really passionate about, what you enjoy. And also if you're going to go into, say, an interview and talk about a redesign of Spotify or something similar to that, then you're saying, well, this is what they should do. And the brand.
And you never know who in the room has maybe worked on that before or
Exactly. Talking about getting put on the spotlight.
Sometimes gets small in the design world.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Everybody kind of knows everybody. So I think it's a better way to just avoid that.
Just naming your own brand and make it Claire's awesome playlist. I completely.
Because I think employers and people are always interested to know like what gets you really excited, what kind of problems do you love to solve, what do you think the world needs more of or less of. So it's a good opportunity to show a little bit about yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great chance to do that. Why don't we, would it be okay if we take a look at your Behance?
Yeah, sure.
I think we could take a look real quick, see if there's any more daily creative challenges. Oh. Richard E. put his Behance. Take a look at that real quick.
Oh, cool.
We got one more for the Daily Creative Challenge, and then we'll come back to that.
Sounds good. Oh, this
one's
animated.
Okay, so I guess this is letting us know the plan for today. Cool. I wonder if the background changes as the time goes.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's like the sunset. That would be super cool if it was like reflective of the time of day, so that you immediately look at it and you know what sense of time it is.
Okay, I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to stop for a minute right there. Let's see if I can get it.
That kind of transition.
Yeah, well, mostly the action. I'm trying to figure out how to get from there to the next thing. Do you double tap? Do you hold it?
Yeah.
I think maybe things like that can become a bit more clear. Maybe it's on the onboarding. I'm not sure, but what if I forgot and I hadn't used this for a week or so?
Right. Because I wonder if they like clicked on a day and then it opened up that list view.
I think that's what happened. They clicked on the day. And it goes to this. But is there any way to add things to this?
Yeah. Or how do I get back? I think, thinking about, how people are inputting information.
Yeah, that's great. So I think that's but you know, the amount of time they had to put this together.
Totally, yeah, no, super, super impressive.
Yeah, really impressive.
And I really like the concept of kind of showing bringing the whole experience together. That it's like, cool, you're creating a calendar. What other ways can I communicate information around like time or progress in something like the visuals in the background?
And how do you differentiate yourself from that too? There's a lot of calendar apps.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's your secret sauce? Which makes it a little bit different? So thank you, Jimmy Bass, for sharing.
Yeah. No, I'm so impressed by all the challenges. Like, it's such a short amount of time,
I
and
know.
it's so hard to think about. Like, there's no way you can capture all of the things in that amount of time. So
Here's a
amazing
sprint
job.
on overdrive.
Yeah, amazing, and especially that you prototyped it out. That's
And
very
you prototyped
impressive.
it out, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at Richard's portfolio very quickly. First one that draws me is the McDonald's thing.
Yes.
Let's take a look at that.
Employee app.
It's an employee app. UK employee app. Okay, so this is great. You're giving us context. I like that
Yeah.
a lot. So, as a McDonald's employee, there's. Okay, so you're trying to reduce the amount of information that is missed by employees by consolidating all the information into one app.
Yeah, it's super clear who the audience is.
Yeah.
I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And you have chats. That's clear. Job, probably tasks, notifications. This is, for starting and trying to just show where you're trying to get at, this is good.
Yeah, it's nice to see like a focused kind of feature element of the experience.
So make chats.
Nice. I like it. Nice use of all the brand colors for McDonald's. I like that it's calling out kind of what the user need is and how this is kind of solving for that. So it's kind of thinking about like privacy and communication.
And camaraderie too. Like further chats between employees will also allow for increased self-expression and improve sense of teamwork as a whole. And this is I think this is a good example of really, if you're trying to show off your UX work, and this is what we're trying to get at. It's to show why are you doing this?
Yep.
What are people going to get out of it by using this? And your justification for adding a chat. Like, why would we need a chat?
Right.
For McDonald's employee thing? But you kind of directed us why. And you told us here.
Absolutely. Yeah, the context makes it easy to understand.
I would also recommend bringing that menu all the way down.
Yeah.
And even freeing up some space. So that the hamburger menu has become a norm, but
Yeah.
it's also, where do you place that?
Yeah, I feel like I don't often see a hamburger menu in the primary nav, or like in this, like a footer nav. I feel like usually it kind of lives in like the upper right-hand corner or left-hand corner.
But I get where he's coming from. For holding the phone, so you're holding the phone, trying to get to it, trying to reach.
Yeah,
so there's
especially on those
these
bigger phones.
great graphs where it shows the heat map of how to get to place and what might be
Yeah.
more difficult. So I understand where you put the menu, why you put the menu on the bottom left. But going into that's going into like how to balance between conventions and ease of use.
Yep, and I think it depends what lives in the hamburger menu too. Like, I always try to go back to the idea of hierarchy. Is the whatever's in the hamburger menu have the same level of importance as these other things that sit in that nav? Because right now they all have the same level of importance. They're all side by side. But I think that things that typically live in a hamburger menu are secondary. So thinking about, is that use need to live so prominently?
Because you're taking a valuable real estate. You have very limited real estate on a mobile app. You have to really use it wisely.
Right.
You don't want to overwhelm them. So is it, like you said, is it necessary to have the hamburger menu there? or can you free up that spot for something else, or just give more breathing room to everything that is already there.
Yeah, definitely.
Make bulletins, available shifts. That's really cool. Yeah, it makes it a lot easier. Especially, like when I was younger, I worked at a movie theater. And sometimes if we couldn't do a shift, we would have to find someone to cover it.
Right.
If we had something like this, asking others to, hey, I need to do something, can anyone take it? This is pretty good.
Yeah, no, I think it solves a real need, and it consolidates a lot of like the tasks that like you'd have to normally like email your supervisor and then hear back from them, and then just, you know, consolidate all that.
I honestly, overall, I could see this going beyond McDonald's.
Yeah, for sure. Of just having, I think a lot of times when we design, we want to design for like the user face, you know, the less of the B2B or like the back end kind of design work, but I feel like there's so many tools for employees, or kind of the less, like you could design an app for McDonald's that's for customers of way to order food. But this, I think, is something that we don't see as often, but it's just as important, and it's less invested in sometimes.
Yeah, and there's entire industries focused on just B2B stuff.
Right.
They need this kind of work done.
Absolutely.
And having this in certain places like a movie theater or other fast food places, it'll help. I think it's really cool he decided to use a brand for McDonald's in this particular one. But it'll be nice to see what personal brand he could go into this instead. What other colors would you choose? Or visual design stuff.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes to your question of like, if you want to work on a project, do you want it to be lending itself to a brand or kind of creating your own? But I think there could be opportunities where if you really do want to work on something as like a side project for a brand, like thinking about the less prominent use cases and how you can design apps and experiences for that.
Absolutely, yeah. Yellow is a very difficult color to work with. I do agree with that. So in terms of the design itself, I think bringing the menu down all the way to the bottom would help quite a bit, because you're losing a little bit of real estate right here you can utilize. Bring this up.
I think thinking about, because it looked like you used the red in a few different places, of thinking about how you want to use that as an accent color in other places could be interesting. I'm curious where the blue comes in versus using the red more. That could be interesting to explore.
Yeah, and yellow is very, very prominent. I understand, though, he is using a brand palette, and it's a very cool product. I think this is a good start.
Yeah, really well thought out.
I would also put somewhere in here the duration, how much time you spent on this.
And then just for kind of cleaning up, making sure that the titles of your screens, if you scroll down, like match what
justification?
Instead of
just
like iPhone X, instead of like this line, it is the title of what that screen
I see what you're saying. Like how we did earlier, copying, pasting.
Yeah, I think that might
I would
be
say
what
don't show
happened.
those things.
Yeah, definitely. Like that could be the shifts page and the McBulletin, like titling it that way.
Definitely try hiding those or changing them. Don't show that one.
Yeah.
But overall, man, good job.
Yeah.
I love the design. I love the look, the functionality of it, and I think it'd be really cool to see how much further you can go elsewhere with this as opposed to just McDonald's. Adding your own branding. Why did you choose these certain colors and visual stuff? There's a lot to work with here.
Yep.
I think you could go even further than just this.
And I think, if you want to keep going with almost like diving in of like, cool, what happens if you click that apply link? Like, what are those subpaths?
And that goes back to the system flow we were talking about earlier, too.
I think that really shows like the detail focus of your design process.
And do the MVP.
Yeah.
Okay, we have about a minute left, so that is just about our time for the day. We want to thank everybody here for joining us. We had a lovely time chatting away, designing with Claire, and And we loved also seeing your designs that you've given us on the Daily Creative Challenges and portfolios.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. It was so fun to be here designing with all of you guys.
Thank you again, and hopefully you could join us again tomorrow and the day after. Take care, everyone.
All right, bye.